All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Canada Cup Season 7. We're here with Dragneel versus Team Freedom, game number 2 in this heated, highly anticipated upper bracket best-of-3 series. Dragneel leads 1-0 Freedom. A tough go in game number 1, 29-7, I believe the final kill score. Brutal stuff. I'm Zyori, joined by Lyrical. What's going on, man? What's happening over there in Portland? It's raining here in New Jersey.
It's 80 degrees and it's terrible. I don't have AC. I don't have anything.
Oh,
I'm just got like nerd sweats going on. It's awful. It's really
Sweet
bad. But
Jiminy Crickets, sir. My God.
it's not necessarily the greatest. But I'm still here for Dota 2, and I'm excited to be cast in this series. It's some solid teams, and Team Freedom go back for the Phoenix. I don't think that was the problem last time for them. I think it was just the general. They were struggling as a team.
10 seconds remaining.
Yep, I agree. I think I actually 100% agree. I think Phoenix was probably one of the better picks, and I think it was right of them to value it so highly and to maybe try it again here. I think that can definitely be the sign of a team that can identify its weaknesses and not have a knee-jerk reaction to a game like that. You know, maybe showing some of their confidence here against Dragneel. It's always a little bit... I always question a bit when I see teams get rolled early in a series and then immediately in the next game play what they were just beaten by or just immediately ban it out. And sometimes it's like, well, yeah, you lost to it pretty hard in that last game, but are you sure it was just the picks that made? Like, are you sure you know how to execute with that hero? And to me, this says no. We know our Phoenix. We're going to show you what's going on here in game 2 as we move into an ace match. But what will Dragon Slayers do? I feel like their last draft was just really well-rounded. I mean, that's kind of what we talked about when we were giving our initial predictions when we were loading into the game, was just their ability to fight constantly was so prevalent. You know, it seemed like there was never a moment when they weren't really ready to take a fight.
Yeah, well, they banned out the Invoker this time, so they can't go Lion Invoker again. And it looks like Dragneel actually just going to switch it up completely. They take the Witch Doctor. I'm assuming that is going to be the same player that was playing the Lion. And to me, this signals that they might try and get aggressive, at least in terms of the whatever carry they're going to take. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Are they really going to do this? All right, they take Kunkka in the second phase here. One of the ways that we've seen this played is Team Freedom running Kunkka Tinker. I don't know if that's going to be what it is, but it's certainly a possibility if they want to throw Team Freedom on full tilt.
Yeah, that is a dirty combo.
5 seconds remaining.
There are a lot of combos with Kunkka that I think, because he's so hard to lane, he's such an odd hero in that sense of how much farm do you allocate to him. You know, he can be kited around. There's no doubt that he can become nasty if you give him a lot of farm and he goes like Battle Fury, Shadow Blade, and gets a Daedalus and a couple of Rapiers. He'll one-shot your team. But even just as a position 4, again, you know, I bring up the Iron Talon. I've never seen anybody do that, but I don't see why Kunkka couldn't use an Iron Talon in the jungle to make up for a little bit of farm and more of like a greedy roaming 4. You know, get 6 in a timely manner, get a couple of points in X, and just start setting up those kills, baby.
Yeah, that's one way that you could end up doing it, and it's certainly a hero that can farm pretty quickly if given the opportunity to do so with that Tidebringer, a natural little steroid to it, but it does have that long cooldown even at level 1, so it would be tough. I think that there's probably a lot of other heroes that do it better, but what Kunkka brings, and the big thing that I could see you either doing that or just running a position 4 that's more greedy in lane would be just the boat and the rum buff that you get. The other way that we did see this run, I believe the other day, was just maximum amount of healers, and then running the boat with it as well. So I think that it was an Io that also got taken with a Bristleback maybe and a Kunkka. I don't remember the entire combination. There's been a lot of Dota recently, but that's the other way that we've seen Kunkka run, is run it in the mid lane still, just dominate your lane with that Tidebringer, and then afterwards you can start just grouping up as 5, and there's not a whole lot that you can do to stop it because nobody ever dies. You have heals, you have that great buff that comes out from Ghost Ship, and it puts you in a great position to steamroll from there.
Yeah, a little bit of the Admiral's. What is it? What is the rum called? The
Coco's rum.
Coco's
Yeah.
rum. The Admiral's rum. A
think
swig
they
of the
have
Admiral's rum. There you go.
I think that the story behind it was that there was a guy named Coco who was like a
Reserve
StarCraft
time.
2 player who inspired
Coco.
who inspired the Kunkka series or something. I don't remember. There's something like that. There's some shenanigans.
I see. I've met the Kunkka that Kunkka is named after. He's a very soft-spoken, mysterious artist.
I wish I could. Full disclosure, Kunkka is my favorite hero. I love
Really?
playing this guy all the time. Yeah, it's awesome if you end up being able to get him.
Okay.
And one of the cool things about it also is you look at Sunray and the way that that works, it has a pretty long cast range as far as how far it goes. I think that you can actually X marks the spot, though, while just barely being clipped by the Sunray. So it's another way to break that spell from a distance, which is something that it's something that not everybody thinks about all the time.
Yeah, that's definitely. You know, I don't think of Kunkka as a hero to interrupt Sunray, but you're right. He can do it very effectively. Looking at bans here, Huskar and Timbersaw taken out by Dragon Slayers. We saw those heroes, a mixture of those heroes banned out in the first game in this series, as well as the first best of one today. So more, I would say, kind of meta picks for this region. Maybe not heroes you'd see in the SCA Dota that I've been casting, but certainly heroes to be feared here in NA. Omni Knight does make it through, though. He was first banned in game number 1. And this go-around, Dragon Slayers, I guess, not as worried about the IX Mike Omni Knight. They'll go ahead and third pick a Dragon Knight after Team Freedom ban out the Life Stealer as well as the Slark there.
This is going to be that type of play, I think, where they're going to try and group up and take towers quickly. They feel comfortable in their ability as a team to win these engagements. We saw their mid lane player. I'm gonna butcher the name. I'm very sorry. Kusho, who I believe is a stand-in for them, just go absolutely ham on the Invoker last time. And with this DK already taken, I'm starting to get the feeling that this is going to be that position for Kunkka. Probably just going to try and do a lot of pulls, and maybe they end up going for a lone druid themselves a little bit later, trying to knock those towers down, or they could go for like a Juggernaut or a Sven, any of those other combos to really put them in a great position to group up and take towers early.
Yeah, I think Dragon Knight has proven to be a really scary hero, and he can go for a medley of different builds. I mean, Bottle is still very core, but the early Armlet into Blink Dagger is becoming a much more popular build. You just turn on that Armlet when you're in Elder Dragon form, and you're nice and beefy. You can siege towers really well, and with the Blink Dagger, you can initiate with Dragon Tail really well, but here you go, a great hero to have in the lane against Dragon Knight, the Alchemist. Now, it does kind of go both ways. Having the regen from Dragon Blood does help you a lot against the Alchemist for sure, but Acid Spray is good against just any melee hero. This is a matchup where Alchemist should be able to zone him out at least a little bit, and taking away the added armor from Dragon's Blood is definitely a counter that Alchemist can consider in his favor. So if they have to trade blow for blow, it is possible to set up kills on the otherwise very difficult to gank Dragon Knight. So I love the Alchemist pick here from Freedom. Very greedy draft so far, though. Phoenix, Doom, Alchemist. Potential Midas carrier, Doom who has a built-in Midas, and then the Greevil Greeting Bastard on top of an Ogre. I mean, it doesn't get much more farm-intensive than that.
Yeah, it's clear what they want to try and do. It's a very greedy draft, but they kind of have to play this way. And the other nice part about this is you've got two different sources now for Team Freedom of damage that's based upon a percentage of your health, with the Infernal Blade as well as with that Sunray. So with all of these tanky heroes, with all of the heals that they've got, they're trying to desperately build into whatever kind of damage they can. And a Winter Wyvern, another great ability here to just turn your own team against you. I think this is really smart for them. The big thing they need to be careful about is she has to get those levels up so that way she can start getting the D-push going with Splinter Blast. If she's level 3 at the 5 to 6 minute mark, it's not going to do it. She needs to be ensuring that she gets those levels.
Yeah, a lot of birds this game, man. You get the Dragon Knight, Phoenix, and the Wyvern to go on top of it. Now we just need a Jakiro pick, and Team Freedom's draft will truly be complete. All forms of fire and ice, flying apparatus. I think this Dragon Slayers lineup, though, really does capitalize on one of the weaknesses on Team Freedom, which is part of what you mentioned in their weak anti-push, and the Winter Wyvern potentially being under-leveled, and the Doom and Alchemist just scooping everything out of the jungle, but also just Doom and Alchemist not really being the best heroes to deal with that really aggressive, chaotic split push. Both of them want to play a slightly slower early game, get their farm rolling, and then once they get that snowball going, then really come online. Not to say that the Alchemist can't take over the game, but I think Dragon Slayers could definitely hit this timing at like 10 minutes, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, where Alchemist, Doom, Winter Wyvern, and Phoenix none of them are in a position where they really want to take a team fight, and it'll be pretty easy to knock down those initial tier 1 towers at least.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that it's key in noting that if they can get to that point where Alchemist maybe gets up his armlet and a Radiance, if that's what they want to go for this game, then possibly they're going to be able to wave coup, but they have to address it further with this last pick here. It's something where this push from Dragon Slayers is going to come really early, and it's going to be before that timing comes about. And I didn't realize, I had to think for a second. It's 3 now sources of damage that's based upon a percentage of health with Arctic Burn. So all 3 of these heroes are going to be able to do a tremendous amount of damage to these really tanky heroes from Dragon Slayers. And a good amount of Aghanim Scepter upgraded ultimates as well. You've got Phoenix Egg, we've seen that used in a couple of games recently. Doom, the classic, and Wyvern's new edition of the Aghanim Scepter is also really great with Arctic Burn.
10 seconds
That's an interesting
remaining.
point. I don't think I've actually seen a Aghanim Scepter Winter Wyvern yet,
5
but
seconds
you do make an
remaining.
interesting case for it. And now the Abaddon, the final choice to
Team
round it out. There is a lot of sustainability on this Team Freedom side. Alchemist with the regen from his ult, Doom from all of his Scorched Earth madness, and then, of course, these other 3 where it's quite more obvious. You know, I think an Ancient Apparition pick could be
10
pretty warranted
seconds
here.
remaining.
That wouldn't be too bad. Yeah, that would actually be a really nice way to round this out. It would mean a
5
Kunkka
seconds
off lane, which
remaining.
I don't think is the worst thing in the world. I think it's better than most people anticipate it to be, but you need to be
Reserve time.
comfortable in that play style. But I really would agree that Ancient Apparition here, great against Sunray, great against Doom, great against Alchemist, great against Winter Wyvern, great against Abaddon. Great.
Yeah.
I feel like Tony the Tiger right now, man.
No, it synergizes with the X marks the spot from Kunkka, the Dragon Tail. You can definitely get some. And C, we've seen a couple
5
Ancient
seconds
Apparitions
remaining.
go the stun primary, and wow, they go the complete opposite route. They take the Enchantress. So does
I don't like
synergize with the 5-man. They've also got a lot of sustainability. You've got the Voodoo Restoration now and the Wisps, and probably an early Vlad's coming on the Lycan. So a lot of opportunities for them to 5-man and be pretty comfortable. Why Enchantress here, though? I'm not really sure what she... Like, now I feel like they're pretty light on control. You know, Lycan and Enchantress are both good in their own right, but not really great team fighters in a 5v5 sense.
Well, the big thing about this, I think, is that the last pick Abaddon signals that Team Freedom is running either a Doom or an Abaddon in the safe lane, and Enchantress, I feel like they're hoping that
10
it's going to be
seconds
Doom.
remaining.
I really think that if they get the matchup of Abaddon versus Enchantress, that's going to
5
be rough for
seconds
sneaking
remaining.
here. And I personally really don't like the Enchantress pick all that much, just because there's a lot of ways to deal with it. Like, even if you think about Winter's Curse, you end up getting a bonus 70 attack speed onto all of their allies. And you look at the way that Untouchable
Prepare
ends up
for
working,
battle.
that is that's more than half the bonus attack speed that you end up getting as a reduction. So she can probably, like, if they just Winter Curse her, she's gonna die almost every single time. I don't think that I personally don't like the Enchantress. I don't really know why they picked it either, to be perfectly frank. I think they're hoping that they're going to get the matchup against the Doom, and then try and just roll over it. But I don't know if Team Freedom are going to allow them to do that. They might even try and switch up the lanes if that happens, because it is a good matchup against the Doom. He already has a very low base attack time, but I'm not sure. I just don't like it very much.
It is a good matchup in the Doom in the lane in that sense, but it's also kind of a bad matchup in the sense that she can't really use creeps because Doom can just eat them, you know? I mean, I guess there comes a stage where he wants to hold on to a specific creep, so he's not just going to gobble whatever she's got in front of her. But, you know, sometimes those centaurs and those early rotations can make all the difference in the world, and having a hero who can instantly take it out of the game can be pretty significant. So we'll see. A lot of eyes on Snake King this game. I feel like Enchantress is just a lot weaker on this patch in general. You know, the addition of Hurricane Pike seemed like the perfect item for her, but the changes to Impetus and its max damage, she's just a completely different beast. She doesn't do nearly as much damage early on as she did just even in the last patch. So
You know what? I
We'll
think
see.
I realized what it is. You mentioned there the Devourer, and it is true. It's on a relatively long cooldown is one thing with the Doom, but they're going to use the Enchantress creeps to try and push these objectives. They're going to be the big tanks, probably going to try and even take Roshan, and then they just have this beefy front line. They can't necessarily pick something like a Chen, so Enchantress is the next best thing. I still feel like it's going to be a little bit scary once those levels start going up for Team Freedom.
No, I do like that idea, though. There are a lot of creeps that are quite helpful for pushing, just picking up the big purple bird. He's got that armor aura, the regen from the satyr. Even just having the purge satyr can be really helpful against the Abaddon with his aphotic shield. And speak of the devil, Mike in big trouble in the top lane. He should be a pretty easy first blood. A few more auto attacks and they'll get it, but no, he actually survives. Fairy Fire just gives him that last bit to survive through it. He'll chew through the salve and eat a couple of tangos here. He will live, but obviously a tough off-lane experience for one Abaddon there.
Yeah, it's true. This is going to be a bit of a tough one, and the Admiral here, Mr. Kunkka himself, is a bit of a tough hero to play up against as well. We saw the slow that came out as well as the instant stun from the Torrent. Well, not instant stun, but the follow-up after the cask. It's going to be a rough lane for Mike all in all, and I feel like they're going to end up probably, I mean, particularly with the Howl being available, every time that's on cooldown, they can basically run at him, and he's not going to get nearly as much out of this lane as he did the last one.
Yep. And here we go. They're going to go right back in on him again. We lost GG, just trying to zone him out here. Has the Voodoo Restoration. No farm for the Abaddon this go-around. Kunkka just hiding in the tree line. He's already picked up a smoke, so definitely a sign that Choklahoma City wants to get aggressive. How's Snake King doing in the offlane here? Let's check in on the Dryad. 4-3 against the 3-2 Doom. So I guess not too bad. Level 2, point and untouchable. Just holding on to the next one. Hits level 3 and gets that second point and untouchable now. So just doing this classic offlane Enchantress. And pretty much getting the matchup that you talked about that does go the Enchantress's way, at least in the lane, so she can't be zoned out. What do we have here? Snake King has never played Enchantress. And Dragneel has never played Kunkka. Okay, well, this is certainly set to be an interesting game. Couple of firsts here.
It's a little bit bold. I mean, it's very bold, actually, but you can see the power there of the low base attack time Doom. They had to respond with something, and Abaddon was what they wanted to go with. So a pretty scary point in time right now. I think, again, this is all set up by the fact that they had to go back for that Winter Wyvern pick, and they had already taken the Doom. They already had the other Phoenix, so they needed to end up running him in the safe lane. And I just think that the drafting of Dragneel really put Team Freedom in a box, and you can see already how dominating they're being across the last hitting board. It's 20-4 on this Lycan, and I mean, even the Alchemist, he's getting a good amount out of it, and is going to be getting a little bit more because he's an Alchemist, but it's a tough game.
Yeah, Lycan getting this kind of free farm is always scary. We've talked. I've used the word tempo heroes a couple of times. We see Snake King get harassed relentlessly here by this Arctic Burn, but I think Lycan is definitely in that category of tempo hero. And he gets this kind of space in lane when he's just literally free farming. He's able to take towers so quickly, and his ability to farm very fast and come online is at times surprising. I think when you have a lineup like this, it has sustainability built around him. Boris here, stunned up in the mid lane, gets caught by the stun from the Admiral. Now the X to pull him back. This should be a kill on the Alchemist, and it will be. First blood drawn by the Witch Doctor himself. Great rotation and perfect target to get that first blood on. That'll slow down the Alchemist momentum.
Look at down bottom, too. Snake King is just bullying somebody out of lane. He tried to go for a right click and couldn't even get it off just because of that untouchable and how slow he's going to end up being able to attack there. Like, really, Dragneel to me are showing the power, one, of this roaming support Kunkka comboed with the Witch Doctor, and then two, the power that Enchantress can level against particular offlaners. It's still a really dominating hero if you have the great right matchup, and hasn't had to have a creep. That's the other thing. When Enchantress first came out and was really sort of taking over the scene, it was more often than not against like an anti-mage or something else like that, where they were able to just sort of bully them out of lane because of untouchable.
Yeah. Dragon Knight, only level 5. He's got a double damage in the bottle, but once he hits 6, that's when it can kind of begin for Dragneel. He's that key point to start these sieges, and it might even be that second Elder Dragon form. The first one just put some pressure on the tower. Phoenix actually holding the lane right now. Looks like Mike could be in a world of hurt. We lost GG on the low ground as the Wolves just zone him back now. Gosh, this is so rough to watch for Mike. He is level 4, so he's getting decent experience, but 11 last hits. This is really a tough life compared to the Enchantress, who's up to a humble 25 and also now level 6 with phase boots.
And really, this is also the other point where Doom is so scared. Look at the damage that's going to be coming out from Impetus. He does have the Scorched Earth whenever he wants it. It's on that 14-second cooldown, which is pretty great, or rather 14-second duration and 55-second cooldown. But now as you have Choklahoma City come in, you're going to be able to hit that Torrent, and this should just end up being a dead Doom. No way to stop it. Out of mana for the moment, but one last Impetus shot, and that's going to find it.
Yeah, baby. Doom on the run, can't get away from the Dryad. Snake King being pretty smart with his mana management there. Knew he only had mana for one more Impetus, threw in an auto attack in between, and then still finds the kill. Very nice setup. Mid lane, Dragon Knight goes in onto Alchemist, but oh, don't worry. There's a Wind Ray there. Alch will be fine, and Dragon Knight will actually take quite a bit of heat instead. He'll just bottle up through that double damage rune, pick up a regen. All things considered, this is a pretty happy DK. Him and the Alchemist are farming pretty evenly, and you know, I thought in the lane it would go a little bit more in favor of Alchemist, but I guess that rotation from Dragneel did kind of tip the scales, and that's given Can't Win With Me the ability to kind of pull ahead at this point.
To me, this feels like it's Dragon Knight really just doing a good job of managing that breathe fire and trying to get the reduction out every time. If you're able to dodge him as the Alchemist, you should get out of that lane perfectly fine, and he's still doing a good job of it, you know, 44-1, but it's just the regen that you get out of this Dragon Knight. The 2 points in the Dragon's Blood means you get 6 regen per second on HP. It's incredibly tanky. It's not just the armor that this spell gives you. It's so hard to deal with in a lane.
Yeah. Alchemist moving into an armlet first, it looks like. He's got himself the Helm of Iron Will and another 1,100 gold. So he's just going to keep farming away, and the nice thing about the armlet build is it does allow you some ability to skirmish and some survivability when incoming ganks come your way. We'll see if he goes into a Blink Dagger and then into Radiance, if he just skips the Radiance altogether. I'm actually really curious how Boris transitions here. He is #1 on net worth. He's having an okay time, but he's not balling out of control. If left unchecked and if his supports were stacking for him a bit more, he could definitely be a bit further ahead at this point. But, you know, #1 in net worth, can't complain too much.
No, absolutely. It's still an Alchemist, and he's going to get what he needs to get. And you saw a little bit of the stacking going on with the Winter Wyvern trying to do it, but again, there's always just this pressure that Dragneel are throwing on. You've got the rotations that come around from the Kunkka into the mid lane, which means you need to have somebody to cover them, and they're actually going to be looking to try and make this. Their Dragon Tail is going to ensure that Dragon Knight gets away, but yeah, it's there. And now you leave the Enchantress alone to just continue to get levels and farms. So there's always a threat, and Team Freedom feel like there's sort of one threat behind.
Yeah, this opener, very reminiscent to Game 1 for me. 8 minutes in now, only 2 kills on the board. Both teams with just a lot of respect in the laning phase. Not really doing anything too crazy, just sitting back, getting their farm, not taking any unnecessary risk. And this really feels like two teams that know each other well, you know, being very, very cautious about their early movements. We'll see the Lycan make a little bit of a risky play. He moves into the enemy Ancients. Realizes that probably not so likely they're being killed. Alchemist still just working his jungle at this stage of the game as Doom takes over the mid. He has found level 6, by the way, so Doom is now online. Maybe some kill potential there. But good stuff from the Lycan. He'll get some decent farm out of this and steal some potential farm from the Alchemist, who's now rotated into the safe lane with an armlet online.
They had to do this also because there's no way that the Doom was going to be able to stay in lane against this Enchantress, and even the Alchemist is probably going to struggle to some extent, but that means that they can commit one more hero down here. Jubei's going to be the area. Sneaking moves over to block the stack so that Alchemist doesn't get this, and as soon as this Kunkka gets level 6, I feel like that's going to be the point in time where we see some more grouping up and teams trying to make something happen, but they might even do it before then, honestly. I mean, they're going to have Dragon form up in a little bit.
Yeah, X marks the spot. Pretty good spell to have against the Phoenix, especially before he hits level 6. And here you go. Phoenix will get set up upon. Out comes the big damage from the Torrent, the stun from the Dragon Knight, and yeah, down goes the bird. Trying to Icarus dive away, but not even going to find the opportunity. They'll use the Lycan ult, the shapeshift for this, and they force out the Radiant Glyph. So with that, the push will be repelled, but I think Dragneel is still pretty happy with the pick off there. And delay the level 6 on the Phoenix a little bit more.
Jubei down bottom is going to get ran into by sneaking here and does have a TP scroll, so should be able to escape from that one. But again, just being forced out of lane over and over, and they're pushing the top lane, they're pushing the bottom lane. No Glyph is around.
Yeah, and this is the power of the Dragneel lineup, even this early on. But now Doom comes in. Sunbeast says, "You're not going to pass my tower, son." He comes in, hits him with the Infernal Blade, and I think this is the end of the Witch Doctor. He's their healer here, not going to be able to toggle on that Voodoo Restoration. Kunkka caught by the Fiery Spirits. He's going to be slowed down as well. Lycan howls to the moon, but what difference is it going to make? Kunkka's actually, maybe they can turn around and kill down Eagle. He's going to miss the taunt, but still makes it into the trees. Choklahoma City, the man with the Nikes indeed. He X's himself. He's ready to hop back as soon as Mike comes in. He jukes it. Mike's got the borrowed time, though. The Hadouken going to be off the mark, and this Kunkka will actually live. Now without borrowed time, Mike needs to be a little bit careful here. Had mana for one more Phonics Shield. Out of stick charges now. Abaddon will be able to make it away, but wow. I can't believe that Kunkka lived. That was incredible.
That was such a nice play right there. The X marks the spot to juke back the other direction, get on the right side of Abaddon, and you're seeing down bottom, Jubei's just going to get ran down here by sneaking, trying to just dive away from this whenever possible, but blocked in now and maybe just needs one more hit to find this kill. Actually is living through this, but...
I mean... Talk about footwork here. In comes the Phoenix. Snake King taking big damage. Might be able to turn for one more onto Jubei, but no! It's a turnaround the other way. The Phoenix will finish him off. And as we look at the text here, looks like that tier 1 down bottom was denied by the Phoenix. So that's a double win for Jubei. Denies the tower and then ends up laughing over the corpse of one dead Enchantress. Meanwhile, in the top lane, though, a Lycan still at it alongside the Witch Doctor, who is level 7, by the way. They could go for something onto Mike. Another glyph has come out. It was reset because of that bottom tier 1 tower kill. They stun him up so he can't go for the deny, and it will be a successful tower kill for the Lycan. TP on the way. It's the Phoenix. That's a Sunray onto the Witch Doctor. He says, let's just TP out, and he makes it. Nice heads-up play, and does survive back to the well.
Pretty nice stuff all around, and the biggest thing about all of this is that this is space created for the Alchemist. 3,100 gold on him. He's about to be able to pick up this bounty rune as well, which is going to accelerate that farm that much further. 400 gold easy for this guy, and is going to be able to pick up that relic. So there's the pieces for them to sort of come back into this and build a little bit more of a lead. Dragneel, if they want to continue to have this snowball going, they need to keep up the aggression, and they need to start grouping together, particularly around these big ultimates for the supports, which still haven't come up and online yet, at least for the Kunkka. That's really been his sort of the big downside for them.
I'm definitely feeling a bit nervous for Freedom right now. Their Alchemist, again, he's not doing poorly, but he's not doing particularly well either. The thing with this hero is it's all about accelerating farm. He's not a hero that's going to win a man fight with another carry blow for blow if they have the same amount of farm, a similar item scope. Where he really shines is being able to power farm at this stage of the game, and this is where he wants to extend that gap and get an item up over his next opponent, so he just is beefier. There's this window where you're capped out before your opponents are, sort of like Anti-Mage. It's not that Anti-Mage is an incredible right-clicking carry, it's that with Blink and his mobility and the nature of Battle Fury, he can farm so fast that he can stay an item ahead for a good portion of the mid-game, and that's when you have to strike. He's not really doing that here. He's just staying pleasantly ahead of the Dragon Knight. The Radiance, of course, is the game changer, but we'll see if it actually does change this game here at Lyrical. Dragneel are doing a great job putting pressure on. They've cleared out all the tier 1 towers now. Dragon Knight finishes off that one mid, and up top, we're going to see a gank attempt.
This is going to end up being a quick little stun off, and somebody taking a good amount of damage. They do have the peer damage that's going through this Cold Embrace, and it looks like they should be able to find that kill. Doom dropped, though, and suddenly it turns like they want to fight a little bit more. Might be able to kill him off with Mike coming in, and actually Lycan getting blocked by his own wolves. They're going to end up bringing in the Nature's Attendants, trying to keep him alive. Are they going to be able to find the kill? They do. The Winter Wyvern with the Splinter Blast figures it all, but at the end of the day, the Winter's Curse trying to bring him low. The Witch Doctor actually killing off his teammate, and it looks like they're going to be able to turn it around again. Two heroes dead, the mid and the carry. Mike is pissed. He's going to keep on running at him and might end up still losing his life, trying to TP away, goes into ulti form, and they're not going to be able to get him.
Yeah, no cask on the Witch Doctor. Great idea for Mike to just TP the hell out of there. What a clumsy fight for Dragneel. They got a little bit too cocky with it seemed like, and spread out too much at the beginning of the fight. They thought it was just going to be a quick, easy kill on the Doom, but he survived long enough to turn it around. And it goes absolutely the other way. Now in the mid lane, Choklahoma City taking huge damage from the Phoenix. Is he actually just going to die to the Sunray here? Oh my god. That's a level 8 Phoenix. A support Phoenix, mind you, just walks up and says, hey there, support Kunkka. Ahoy from support land. We'll see you in the well, buddy. Take care. And that was it.
It was really good stuff from him. Like again, this is right now Dragneel getting a little bit on tilt. They've got to try and take this fight on their own terms because previously up there in the top lane, it felt like it was going to be an easy pickoff. They rotate in with the Winter Wyvern, that cold embrace, making all the difference in the world. And now that they've got the Radiance up on the Alchemist, they have to get something here. And Roche is only the start for them. And it looks like this could be a really bad team fight if they're not careful.
Oh my god, this is so lucky. They get an illusion rune right as the Alchemist gets his Radiance. So much damage coming out, and he's still in a defensive position. The Phoenix guys to the boat right away, as does Boris. It starts off pretty good for Dragneel. They've already lost their Lycan, but now they're actually going to continue this fight. Snake King has the attendance on as he gets stunned up by the Wyvern ult. He ends up falling. Mike uses the borrowed time as the Wyvern flies away on the high ground. Meanwhile, on the lower side, they're going to continue to chase down Mike here. He eats through his stick charges. Dragon Knight does have BOT, so he's very fast, has another Dragon Tail, and I think Mike should go down here. Meanwhile, on the other side, it's the Wyvern versus the Kunkka. I think the captain wins this one, and he sure does. Doesn't have any points in Tidebringer, but brings her down nonetheless. A 2 for 4 and a great team fight for Dragneel. Really thought that one was going to go the way of Freedom, but they just couldn't get it together to make it work.
The Kunkka did so much in that engagement. The Phoenix being able to get taken out right at the start that you were talking about, he is the key, the engine with which their entire ship flows through. It's what they need to make happen. Isn't that? Yeah, it's pretty good.
Dude, look at the recap, though. He did 3k damage in that fight. Number one on Dragneel. The highest damage dealer on Freedom was Abaddon at 1600. That's the power of the Kunkka at this stage.
Going back in, he has a boat again. This could be terrible for Freedom if they take this.
Oh, no. Here we go. Oklahoma City with a setup. They're going to go right in onto somebody. He's got the Doom. Oh, but he can't use it. He's stunned up. He falls before he can drop the hammer. Now it's bad news bears for Freedom. They need to get the hell out of here. The boat connects onto Boris. Eagle makes it to the high ground. He gets off the egg, but everybody's got regular attack speed. They just clock him down and finish it off. Now they go in onto Boris the Cask, bouncing around the Ogres, doing a lot of damage here. They're going to X him back. Dragon Knight gets a Breathe Fire on 2. Jubei coming in. He does have an ultimate. He does try to buy Boris some time. Now drops the Winter's Curse onto Oklahoma City. They get the kill on the Kunkka. Dragon Knight's still alive, just trying to live. Turns, drops the fire on the Alk, and gets the kill. Mike now using the Curse of the Avernus actually chases him down. Another sloppy, chaotic fight that still goes the way of Dragneel, though they do take some casualties along the way. 14-9. I don't really want to say they were happy with that one, especially now Snake King gets left behind. He's got a TP scroll. We'll be able to use it here to get away. Mike trying to give him the old slap chop, but it's not going so well. She is untouchable, baby.
That's good stuff. Love to see that, and is going to try and bait him into this potentially. This is the thing, is that Kunkka can really turn the tide of a team fight, and 4,100 damage. I know, it's good stuff. 4,100 damage coming out from the Alchemist. That's what you need to be aware of, and this is going to end up being just, again, punishing Mike here. You have this great ability to initiate from really far away, and they're going to be able to keep him down. That's going to end up being catching on to Phoenix. He should fall there, and oh my god, it's just all going downhill.
Yeah, that was a great impetus. Chase that one all the way through. A set of kills for Dragneel, and at this point, I think Freedom are throwing too much at this Roche. Absolutely, you want to stop a team with Lycan from just getting a free Roche on. He's got a Necro book out now. Vladimir's offering has been online for a while. He could easily solo Roche at this point. With the team, it goes down pretty fast, but I mean, how many heroes have to die, and they're still going to get Roche? That's the fundamental problem here. If Freedom were conceding these fights, but somehow they managed to get Aegis at the end, maybe you could make a case that it's worth it. You make a play with the Aegis, you get back in this game. Instead, they basically just lost 3 team fights so that Dragneel could get the Aegis anyway. There was very little gained there for the rating. You look at the gold graph, and there was a moment where it seems like, oh, wait, they're getting it. Oh, wait, no, back downhill we go. And now Dragneel has the biggest lead we've seen this game, 5K. Whoa, it jumped up. 7,500 net worth and experience is their favor, good sir.
It's so good, and honestly, it to me comes back to Oklahoma City on this Kunkka. He is dominating, and you think about how that last little engagement goes. Winter Wyvern tries to walk down and see if she can make some type of Winter's Curse play happen, but he's able to initiate from so far away with the X marks the spot that you're constantly going to be able to take those team fights, and it's on an 8-second cooldown. They're actually going to spot out the Phoenix right now. Ends up trying to TP away and should be able to escape, I think. Yeah, no luck in terms of being able to stop it, but mid lane, Kunkka's still keeping eyes on him, and he's going to end up initiating here.
There we go. X back onto Mike, right into the Torrent. They're going to converge on him. Borrowed time comes out. They really control their damage well. He gets off an aphotic shield, but now they get the Dragon Tail, and this should be the end of IX Mike. They actually deploy the Death Ward as well. They're not messing around. Now Jubei, caught by the X Torrent combo, goes into Arctic Burn form, flies over the trees, fogging them pretty effectively here. It's Dragon on Dragon action, but oh god, Drogon comes in and lights them all aflame. Good night, Winter Wyvern. Dragon Knight finds his vengeance, plants his seed, and now sieges the Tier 2 tower.
And this Alchemist is just not going to be big enough by the time they're breaking high ground. You've got the Radiance, you got the Armlet, you got 3,300 gold even, but you're balanced around having a gold advantage on an Alchemist. And honestly, you can, I mean, if they need to also, they can pass a TP scroll over to Kunkka, X marks the spot back so they can keep the sustain going from there. And just another great initiation, able to find Eagle for the moment. And they're going to have it again in a second.
Yeah, this is great. They get the Tier 3 tower, they force the Alchemist back. Dragneel know this timing well. Just as you described, the Alchemist is not big enough to really take a team fight yet. And to be perfectly fair, Dragneel have yet to do crippling damage. They're on track to be, I think, ahead of par for the course at this stage to just get high ground and really get control. But they have to do that soon. One failed team fight, two failed team fights, and all of a sudden this Alchemist is huge. The Doom's caught up a little bit. I mean, that's a big gap to close, but still, they haven't done it yet. And they need to be a little careful, but really good stuff. Where's the Alchemist going to go from here? Is this just straight Octarine core at this point? He's got 4.5k, maybe thinking about BOTs so he can bounce around the map a little more effectively. Kind of curious what item build he has in mind. It's a straight S and Y. Okay. Interesting.
That's what I was going to say, is that he needs to do so many different things, and it feels like this is sort of the middle of the road item. We'll see if like he has to be able to fight. That's the end of the story, because they're going to keep on pushing along each of these towers, and it's just it's such a difficult position to be in, because like you said, he needs to be able to be in each lane. He needs to have the Manta style to push them out. He needs to have the Octarine to make sure that all of those things happen in consequence, and he has to fight. And unfortunately, there's no item that does all of those things. Yeah. One other thing that's pretty awesome, though, if you're taking a look at the way that this game is developed,
Snake King, he takes a Doom, he takes a laser, and then just walks away. All right, well, that was a Doom used. Now Eagle's going to be left behind, caught by the Shadow Blade. Oh, wait, Silver Edge Dragon Knight with a haste rune. Not surviving that one. Okay, no surprise there. So sorry.
Witch Doctor just got his Ags too. That's what I was going to say. Is Witch Doctor is going to have his Ags, Enchantress is going to have Ags. You have this Alchemist that's up at the top of the net worth, but 4 heroes ahead of every other one for freedom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they've given everything to this Alchemist. Literally all of their eggs are in the Alchemist basket right now. And now the high ground siege begins. No glyph available for the Radiant. So this is pretty easy damage for Dragneel. They go right in onto Mike. Out comes the Ice Cube. That buys him a little bit of time. The Cold embraces him. They go right in onto the Lycan. He dies through the Glimmer Cape, but he's got the Aegis coming right back up. Necro Book already been used. He's stunned. He's getting low. He's trying to use the Shapeshift, but he won't get out. They're focusing on Mike. Oh, is it going to do enough, though? It's bouncing all around. He actually doesn't find the kills. Witch Doctor getting low. Gets off the Glimmer Cape, but stunned up by the Supernova. Brought down by the laser. It's a great hold for Freedom. They hold on to their barracks. Most of the damage goes into the melee. Wow. They lose nothing.
Mike did so much in that fight, turning on his ulti and just tanking the entire Witch Doctor ultimate. I gotta say, that was really, really bad for Dragneel. Like, it was, they went for the play where they were trying to bait out the Witch Doctor ultimate. You could see him just standing there and looking at him, trying to see if they could get the perfect initiation point, and they even sacrificed the Aegis to try and bait Freedom into moving too far afoot. But as soon as they did, Abaddon just turned on his ultimate and everybody ran away from him, and it was fine.
I mean, let's take a look here. We're going to move into our Soylent instant replay and relive the madness. Looks like we're going to witness a kill up top onto the Alchemist just as we hop into the replay. But that's A-okay here. We'll keep you up to date. Looks like it's just going to be Boris heading straight to the grave, so good setup there for the Dire squad. Meanwhile, back in the game, though, you can see how much work the Abaddon does. They pop the Aegis straight up. You think it might be, okay, Dragneel's going to turn, then they just destroy the Lycan, and the Abaddon just survives through all of it. That's the nuts part. I don't really understand why Dragneel saw IX Mike and said, hey, you know what? That's the target we need to go on this fight, guys. That's the winner right there, because it clearly wasn't.
He's a pretty good answer to that DOT that you've got here out of Dragneel. That's the one part of their lineup that's a little bit missing is the ability to take a fight quickly. Oh, but look at this. They're going to be going in. Dragon Knight doing it big.
Yep, right in onto Jubei. He gets doomed up, though. Cold Embrace will keep him alive. Phoenix makes it back, but Freedom not really getting much out of this. They do force the Alchemist buyback, and at this point, Dragneel just want to cut their losses and reset this fight. Force the Alchemist to buy back and not give him anything. Looks like Choklahoma may get left behind. He does pop the boat before he goes down. Doesn't really give him a hell of a lot. But now the rest of them actually in full retreat. We lost GG, gets left behind, stunned up by the concoction. Boris gets a double kill, but don't forget, he had the buyback penalty on that entire time, so very limited earnings off that. It's another decent hold for Freedom, but this one much more costly than the last.
Yeah, and it's starting to feel more and more like, again, Freedom are hitting their stride a little bit. They can take team fights and win them as long as they have all of their components, but you saw right there, the Alchemist went up to the top lane because he felt like he had to farm aggressively, and that's the big issue, is that they have to make plays that are going to put them in compromising positions.
Yep. Alchemist is starting to get some momentum, though, and I think if Dragneel flubs another big team fight, if they throw away another 3 heroes when Alchemist doesn't buy back, this could really start to move in favor of Freedom. They've stalled the lead for Dragneel. It's starting to move back in their favor. Alk getting very close to that Octarine core, and then that's when things really start to get scary. But if you look at the flip side, Dragneel now have a 5-minute window where if they kill this Alchemist once, the game is basically over, and it might not end on that push, but they should be able to do crippling damage. He represents so much of this Radiant network. He's literally like 40% of the team. If they kill him and he doesn't have buyback, they should easily be able to take 1 lane, if not 2 of Barracks.
Well, and you're always going to have the issue with this lineup of Freedom. It's a lineup that wants to stay together, so if they do get ahead, it's going to be scary, but they also have the split push potential from the Lycan with those Necrobooks level 3. So it's a very, very long road ahead for Freedom to try and get back into this game. It's capable of happening, but it requires basically immaculate play from this point on.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I like how Snake King is itemizing here. Very standard stuff so far. Maybe moving into just a Lincoln Sphere with that Perseverance. Possibly a Lotus Orb. A couple good things to recast here. But he's got good farm. Aghanim Scepter, Dragonlance at this stage in the game. He's also picked up this little Satyr. I've lost track of it now, but it's a great creep to have. We mentioned it briefly earlier on, but the Purge does get rid of the Aphotic Shield on the Abaddon. And it gets rid of the slow, and as well as the Fire Spirit debuffs. Doom's going to go ahead and eat it. He'll get a purge of his own. But still, I like what Snake King's going for here. It's an underloved creep, and that damn little Satyr, man, is sure annoying. Interesting build coming out of Sunbee, though, on this Doom. Look at this here. Tranquil Boots, Blade Mail, Casual Buckler, Veil of Discord. Very heavy armor build. He's up to 23 armor, so he is pretty beefy on that front. But it's just an interesting medley of items I feel like I don't see in the hands of Doom very often.
He's the do shit hero basically in this game. That's what he needs to be, and it's kind of cool because you look at it. You've got Scorched Earth, Infernal Blade, both magical damage based upon a percentage of HP. Jubei also has that with the Arctic Burn. Arctic Burn has been doing a ridiculous amount of damage in these team fights, and we really haven't seen a great engagement from Dragneel as of yet with their full consortment of abilities. But when that happens, these types of abilities that do a ton of damage are, particularly when buffed up by the Veil, are going to be really necessary. Like, they have to have a Veil, and Doom's just the person that happens to get it because he has the most gold outside of that Alchemist.
Yeah, that's a fair point. It does make sense when you think about it that way. Roshan has respawned here, and I was wondering, what is Dragneel waiting for at this point? It feels like they're giving this Alchemist a lot of space. They did just pick up the BKB on DK, which is a pretty core item. Sometimes that'll delay a push timing. They've got the Eggs on Witch Doctors we've already mentioned. Kunkka here with this Glimmer Cape. They're in a pretty damn good spot, and now with Roshop, that could have been what they're waiting for. They're going to bump into IX Mike in the jungle here, and this could lean into a team fight. Sunray's already been used. A lot of these creeps getting cleaned up. And Dragneel will start to retreat. They don't have their Dragon Knight with him. He doesn't have a TP scroll. He's so far isolated up. Oh, he's got BOTs. Oh my god, I'm blind. Well, good. He's in the fight, so scratch that. Dragneel,
really bad.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, is this serious? Okay, I thought he just picked up the BKB. I totally missed the Boots of Travel. I really like it, though. I think it's a great pickup. It allows them to push out these side lanes, then allow them to get back into fights like this. It's a item you don't always see on Dragon Knight, and I think it makes a lot of sense here.
Totally. Yeah, this is the thing that they need to be able to make happen is find this initiation, and it looks like they're going to be going for it right now. If they can catch somebody other than Mike, Mike's an okay target, but they need to have the follow-up after the fact. They pull back, the Phoenix Egg is going to get dropped, and looking for a little bit more. The boat's going to end up hitting only onto 2, and not sure if it's going to be enough damage, and it looks like they're going to be able to keep them alive.
The egg actually goes off. The Dragonite's so beefy in the front line, so the BKB's done, but he's still at full HP. They're going to be able to finish off the Doom. The Death Ward from Witch Doctor starting to bounce around. They only get the kill on the Doom. Now they run into Mike. This is a big kill because he's the gem carrier. It hits the deck. It's only a 2-0, but I think Dragneel pretty happy with that. Oh my god, you're right. They get Jubei. It's a 3-for. Great stuff.
This is going to be their signal to go into the Roche pit, and this is what they need to make happen.
Yep. You're absolutely right. Roshan up. No reason to try for high ground here. You take the obvious objective, get your team a little bit of extra money, and the high ground will be there waiting for you. Still showing that the Alchemist has a little bit of a weak point. You know, he's scary and pretty beefy now, but not unkillable. And with the BKBs still pretty fresh, they've got a couple good team fights left in them. 9 seconds now on Lycan, and I think that's still 9 seconds on the DK. Yep, both of those BKB debuts there.
They might be going for a play here onto Boris. They have boots of travel, but it doesn't look like they're going to be able to be there in time. So instead, it's just going to be the Haster and Kunkka. He's going to push out this lane, and as you can see, the low cooldown on Ghost Ship means that you can basically use it whenever you want. Almost a farming item at this point with the 500 magical damage, but that really low cooldown allows them to use it.
Yeah, and Dragneel are being pretty choosy about which fights they take. You know, they haven't initiated everyone perfectly, but for the most part, for the last 5-10 minutes or so, they've been very cautious about their team movements, and you know when they want to fight. You can see it in their eyes as they group up and start to engage their chokehold on Team Freedom. There is one outer tower remaining. DK is going to BOT into the lane, and it looks like this is going to be the next target of choice. We can't also forget about the Silver Edge, just using that on the Alchemist when he would normally drop a stun, start laying in right clicks. The Dragonite has the ability to mitigate a lot of his damage output, and the Alchemist has no way to deal with that debuff. No Manta, no BKB. He just has to deal with it, and that does harbor some of that Freedom damage output in these fights for sure.
I'm not sure if I love Boris going back for this Blink Dagger. I think about an Aghanim Scepter. Like, if he could have picked that up and thrown it onto Abaddon, that is game-changing in these engagements. And I really feel like that would have been such a huge item. He probably would have had it at this point right now, or at least very close to it. And I don't know. I can't help but think that this Blink Dagger, while it's going to allow him to get into the back line and find one of those core heroes, he really has to accomplish a lot, because the damage mitigation from an Abaddon ultimate with Aghanim Scepter is just absurd.
It is. It's an item that you really don't see that often, but it opens up so much in team fights. There is a remedy, though. Just don't target the Abaddon. And here they are going to force out the borrowed time. So this is a 50-second window where Dragneel may want to go for it. Boris comes in with a blink stun, gets it on 2, but now the boat going to fly in onto Doom. He does manage to cast his ult before he dies, and die he shall as he gets chased down. The ult from Winter Wyvern buys him a little bit of time. The DK gets his BKB off, even though he's doomed. They just right-click down the Phoenix through Supernova. 2 heroes down without buyback. Now they go in onto Boris. He does have his buyback available here. Cold Embrace buys him some time, but still, Dragneel feeling pretty good here as they start to look towards structures. Glyph is available for the Radiant. 2 buybacks used now. The Bird barely gets enough gold to have it. Mike, borrowed time, down for 10, gets stunned up. The Sunray doing some healing, but he falls. No buyback on the Abaddon. Now it's a 2v5. All 5 still alive for Dragneel. An ultra kill for the Witch Doctor. We lost GG. More like we just won 2-0, bitch. That's how he's feeling right now.
That is so sick. I can't believe it. A Witch Doctor ultimate goes off. Makes a huge difference in a team fight, but the counter initiation is going to come back in, and Boris trying to bring down We Can't Win. He's going to be sunned up. He's going to be brought down. No help, no home. He might actually be able to live. No, he's going down there, and the X again, because why not? GG ends up getting called. My goodness, that Witch Doctor ult was literally game-winning. They had to pop the Phoenix Egg, otherwise he was going to go down. Wicked 6 streak for the Witch Doctor. Oh, he's on top of the moon.
That was a pretty badass finisher to that game, honestly. The team fight recap was like A 3.8 gain for a 3.2 loss. I mean, that was just a devastating swing. Even if Freedom had managed to come together, hold on for that one final push, that was just Dragneel showing us what their lineup was made of. That DK, so beefy. He was the doom target, and he survived all the way through it. And I have to say, that Kunkka pick worked out pretty damn well. He was 3-3-19, very active, got a lot of farm throughout the early game, and he did pretty well. That was a pretty impressive display. I like it.
I'm loving him, and I think this might be one of the heroes that really makes his presence felt at the middle of Major. I get this inkling that a couple of teams might have him in their back pocket, saving him. He's gotten a lot of buffs recently, so keep your eyes out, because this might be this is a game right here where neither side has any incentive to hide any of the information. Whereas some of the more recent games, you can make the argument maybe they don't want to reveal anything before the Major. So just keep your eyes on it. Kunkka might be the hero.
All right, very good. So that'll be your upper bracket series for tonight, folks. The Dragon Slayers take it 2-0. Freedom not eliminated. They will be going down to the lower bracket where they can fight another day, but Dragneel looking hot. We've got one more match scheduled for tonight. I got to pull up our schedule here. What are we working on? And it is scheduled to start at about 10 o'clock. Great. So an hour and 10 minutes from now. We will have another matchup here. I'm actually not sure who it is, so we need to poke around. I'll be back with an update, per usual. I don't know why I even bother, honestly. I don't read ahead, and then in the moment, I can't find my notes. So we're going to take a quick break, a quick word from our sponsors. Thank you so much for joining us for your coverage, Canada Cup Season 7. I'm Zyori, he's Lyrical, and we'll be back after this.